let's check out the newspaper headlines this morning on Wake Up Nigeria. Take a look at the news making the rounds, especially those on the headlines. This morning, we begin with the Daily Independent, and the Daily Independent has this: federal government moves to enforce Supreme Court verdict on local government autonomy. That also featured in the news this morning. Raises 10-man interministerial committee led by Akume. Implements plan to save 10 billion naira from COP29 expenses. Now, as beautiful and as gorgeous as she is, I cannot believe that I did not remember to say Titi is also joining me on this.
Because we're both wearing orange today, so I'll forgive you.
So it felt like we just literally segued into it. I apologize, darling.
No,
okay, so back to the Daily Independent. Diaspora remittance grows by 130%, hits all-time high of $553 million in July. Here we also have Nigerian arrested for $10 million pandemic unemployment scam in the U.S.
Goodness.
Okay, still on the Daily Independent. Appeal Court affirms Shaibu as Edo Deputy Governor. Alleged terrorism financing. Ajaero makes U-turn, accepts to honor police invitation on August 29. ITUC condemns intimidation of trade unions in Nigeria. We also have, we don't have verifiable data in the housing sector. Minister laments. We don't have record of ex-CJN Onogen's CCT case file. That's coming from the AGF. See, so many stories on the front page of the Daily Independent newspaper that might interest you. You might want to check them out. But which one?
The $10 million pandemic scam jumps out at me because I wonder, there are a lot of very intelligent Nigerians out there, and in the end, what they're using their intelligence for is just mind-blowing.
It's unfortunate.
It's unfortunate and mind-blowing. Definitely we'll be following up with that story. But we also have the New Telegraph with us here. It says, alleged terrorism financing and others will shut down economy if Ajaero is arrested, NLC warns. It says here, calls on state councils, affiliate unions to mobilize members, asks federal government to stop witch-hunting labor leaders. We also have the Vanguard newspaper here with us this morning. The same headline, actually, police invitation to Ajaero. We won't be silenced, say NLC. Let's see what else we have here. At the top, we have diaspora remittances rise 130% to $553 million in July, according to CBN. Police, again, failed to arraign protesters, says activist Adeyanju. And on cost of governance, we'll cut 10 billion naira from COP29 expenses, say presidency. What else do we have here? Okay, PFN2, Tinubu, Nigerians are hungry, hasten renewed hope agenda. Page 10 has more on that. That's what we have on the Vanguard. Okay.
There are quite a number of stories that jump at me from this one. However, the remittances rising by 130% is one that I find really interesting. Nigerians are outside the country, you know, working hard, trying as much as possible to push stuff back home. So it's not such a bad thing when people emigrate, really. So I guess that's the good part of it. Now let's take a look at the Punch newspaper, which says NNPC reports 9.3 trillion petrol imports as queues linger. Petrol subsidy gobs 3.3 trillion naira. NNPC incurs 1.8 trillion naira energy security costs. Here we have Port Harcourt's Warri Depot receive PMS task force arrest black marketers. Still on the front page of the Punch newspaper, producers decline sale of 460,000 barrels per day crude to Dangote others. Forex shortage, domestic airlines ground 42 aircrafts. Akume Edu lead LG autonomy implementation panel. Down here we see 2027, the APC kicks as PDP backs call for Jonathan's return. One dies as Ogun hunters, herders clash. And 5 banks budget 222 billion naira for cyber security. Now, all of
Okay.
these stories and more you can catch in the Punch newspaper.
It's about time banks started putting a bit more money into cybersecurity, to be honest, because the most recent cases of so-called hacks, alleged hacks, disruptions in the services. We're not sure exactly what happened to most of them. There are just rumors about them being hacked. But this is people's livelihoods, people's finances. Being entrusted to you, you need to do everything
yeah,
possible
you need to do your best
to secure them.
protect it. Yeah.
But then again, I've always been of the opinion that, hey, leaving too much money in the bank might not be the best idea. Investing in other things might be better because it's like having all your eggs in one basket. That's how I wrap that up.
Valid point, really. Valid point. Okay.
We have the Nation newspaper here. It says here, NNPCL petrol sells for half its landing cost, according to NNPCL. That's the only headline we have there. We also have This Day newspaper with us. It says here, NLC seeks time extension for Ajaero to honor police invitation, threatens strike. AI accuses federal government of targeting labor leaders and attempt to cripple nation, or rather cripple union. ITUC condemns alleged intimidation of trade unions. Beneath the masthead here, it says, Clark, Wike must leave PDP for party to survive. Party inaugurates disciplinary reconciliation committee today. And right at the top there, same headline as similar papers. CBN declares $553 million remittance inflows amid FX reforms. All right, so more money coming into the country.
Yeah.
Let's hope it's being allocated and distributed accordingly. You know, but it's a good percentage I'm seeing there.
Yeah.
But I
That's
think
why I
it
had to
could
make
be better.
reference to it earlier. It could be better.
be better,
Of course, it could be better. However, it's 130% is actually quite impressive. It's something. So we can only keep our fingers crossed, hoping that it even gets better.
Yeah.
When are you going to start remitting?
Remitting?
Time for you to move.
Oh, wow, really?
Okay. I'm just kidding.
After you.
Me.
As soon as
Nigeria. Oh, the way I love this country.
Yeah. We love this country. We love Nigeria.
Well, yeah.
We have quite a lot still to come, and we have MM
In
and
the kitchen.
and of course Chef Ariola.
Yes.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Oh, how I have missed this kitchen, guys. Yes. Good to have you back, Chef Ariola. And this morning, he's got, I would like to refer to what you're going through right now in your head as a whirlwind of recipes.
Definitely, because you have to figure out what exactly we will name this.
Yeah.
So,
But it is a signature dish or signature recipe from Chef Ariola himself, guys. So we've not given it a name yet, but yeah, it's all going to
Ingredients
come
are
together
available.
really nicely.
Yeah, of course.
Because I mean, Chef Ariola always got it. He always got it. So let's talk about you know, the ingredients.
all right, so pasta,
Yeah.
basically, sausages, eggs, tomato sauce, fresh pepper, and I have an avalanche of spice and herbs here
Okay.
in this bowl.
Okay.
Oil,
So I
of course.
guess that sort of, you know, depicts what's happening in your head right now. and
Exactly,
avalanche.
exactly. So basically what we're doing is, it's quite simple. I mean, even though it looks this
Maybe we
much.
can call it a spaghetti avalanche.
All right. That works. A spaghetti
Or we could
avalanche,
say,
all right.
we could say pasta avalanche. No, spaghetti avalanche works better.
Maybe we could just-
Avalanche.
Avalanche, exactly. So it's quite simple. So we're just going to cook down our spaghetti,
Okay.
and then we're going to stir fry
Okay.
with some of the ingredients. Then we make a sauce. So we're just doing, mostly here, what we do, we just cook our spag and we serve a sort of sauce over it.
Okay.
So just to make that look more appealing and interesting.
Okay.
Personally, I'm not even a spaghetti fan.
Oh, you're not? What are you a fan of?
macaroni,
Ah,
fettuccine, like so.
okay.
If you want to have me eat spaghetti, it has to be something that is out of this world.
So you're definitely going to eat this one.
Definitely.
Oh, fantastic. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Guys, if you're just joining us, with me in the kitchen is Chef Ariola. And I would like to call this dish spaghetti avalanche. Yes, that's what we're calling it this morning. And yes, it's a whirlwind happening right here in the kitchen, and would like for you to join us. Don't worry, you're not going to get caught up in it. You're going to enjoy every beat of it, right?
Yeah.
So let's get right into it. What are we starting with?
So I have water to boil the
Okay.
pasta, so just salted.
Okay.
Nothing else, just salted water. So after boiling, I drain. Then we move to the sauce. So while the sauce is cooking, I prepare to stir fry with these wonderful ingredients.
Ingredients. Now let's talk about, this is efirin, right?
Yes,
Efirin, that's scent leaf.
scent leaf, but it is basil, actually.
Oh, it is?
Yeah,
Scent leaf basil.
it is.
It is?
Yeah, it is basil.
It is?
It's just like when we have citrus, we have orange.
Yeah.
Lemon,
Oh, it's in
lime,
the
grape,
same
it's
class.
yeah.
Oh,
So
wow.
This is our own basil here.
Oh,
so we have the
never
Italian and so on.
thought.
Yeah.
Thanks for that, yeah, tip. Wow, can you imagine? I didn't know that. I did not know that. You see why you should always tune into the show every single day? There's always so much to learn, not just, in the food that we make, but also in the ingredients that we use. Whoever thought? So let's get right into it. Are we crushing our pepper? Are we blending?
Yeah.
Are we
No, we're
slicing,
not blending
chopping?
because we want to have a taste of everything.
Okay.
So we're going to crush just
Okay.
or lightly chop,
Okay.
depending on whatever preference you
Okay.
want. So, of course, I know people will be like, there's no onion. I'm sorry. So, like I said, this is something that I would love to eat.
Okay. So you can
hence
use
the-
onion
yeah,
if
you can use
you'd
onion
like.
if you'd like, yeah.
Uh-huh.
So, and then one of the kick here is also the fresh ginger and
Okay.
fresh garlic.
Okay.
So we're going to grate that. So that goes into the oil first, give it some aroma
Before we
we stir fry. So
Okay,
the first thing now
guys.
will be just put the
to
spaghetti.
parboil our
into
pasta,
the-
spaghetti. Okay, I can't wait for this dish to be ready, guys, because the suspense is in the taste, or the intrigue is in the taste, right? I can't wait for it to be ready. But hey, guys, we'll be right back, and we don't want you to go anywhere. Stay with us. The show continues shortly.
All right, welcome back. Now, yes, on Wednesdays, well, it's usually Tuesdays we talk health, but today we have something important that we needed to make sure we talked about today. And we have a catalyst for change in the healthcare sector with us, Folake Owodunni. And she's going to be talking to us a bit about emergency response and so much more. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right, so Emergency Response Africa, right? I hope I got that right.
Yes, correct.
Fantastic. I remember watching a lot of movies as a young person, thinking about, the emergency response teams they have in America and in Europe and all that. And when I think of emergency response here in Africa, it doesn't really, no balance. Let's just put it that way. And I know you probably have had that kind of response before when having this conversation. You need to let us know why you decided to take on this project and how it's been going.
Absolutely. So, Emergency Response Africa came from a place of personal experience.
Okay.
Several years ago, I had an emergency with my son.
Oh, wow.
But it happened outside Nigeria.
Okay.
And so, kind of like, what you're saying, I called 911, and the response was so prompt and straightforward that I couldn't help but think if the same situation had happened outside in Nigeria, it would have been a very different outcome. So, I mean, absolutely, we're not there yet, for sure, but Emergency Response Africa started because we felt that just because we're in Nigeria doesn't mean we shouldn't have access to a 911-like system. And that's exactly what we do. We connect people to help when they have an emergency.
Okay, all right. So this is, I don't have any other word to use, but a private version of the emergency response that, would have come from public health care?
Interestingly, yes, but we do actually work with the government.
Okay.
So we work across the private sector and the public sector. I mean, if you think about what emergency services is, it's for everybody. it's not just about one person who can afford to pay. So for us, it's been very important that in as much as we're serving the private sector, individuals, corporate, we also work with the government to make sure that even the most underserved can actually access the service when they need it.
Fantastic to hear that. I saw a hashtag, 1,000 ready to serve?
Respond.
Over to respond. And I was trying to figure out how you plan to go about this and what that campaign is really targeted at.
Yeah, so 1,000 Ready to Respond is a campaign that we've launched to train and equip and certify 1,000 Nigerians in first aid and CPR before the end of the year.
Okay.
And you wonder, why? Why is this important? One of the biggest problems that we've seen in delivering emergency services in Nigeria is awareness and education. And I only need to point to a few examples. We had some time ago the situation with Junior Pope and, the drowning and all that he went through before finally passing. Even recently, we lost the national treasure, Onyeka Onwenu. Wow. Again, the circumstances show us that if there was just timely intervention, those people might have actually had a chance to survive. And the reality is those are the names we know.
Yeah.
There are literally over 1 million every single year in Nigeria that we don't know that die under those circumstances. And so for us, we're on a mission this year to make sure that at least 1,000 people can be equipped with the skills to intervene in a manner that actually helps to increase the likelihood of that person surviving.
Okay, so CPR is very, so there are basics of CPR, but then there are also some other interventions that could come in with things like machines, defibrillators and things like that. So that's going a step further. Are you going that far? Because CPR, chest compressions and mouth-to-mouth is one thing, but just going the extra mile like they would abroad, they probably have defibrillators in big, large
places.
buildings.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, I mean, we need to think of emergency response as a continuum, right?
Okay.
It goes from whatever happens at the scene when there's an emergency all the way through to the hospital when the patient is actually brought. And this campaign is really focused, of course, on that first initial response. Anything that you or I can do, to at least keep the person okay. However, when you're training someone, one of the things we talk about is the chain of survival and the importance of actually activating a professional response, which is why we're not just a training company, right? We don't want to just train the public. We also want to make sure that that professional response is available. So you as a first responder, you see somebody, clearly they need CPR, you start administering. You cannot do that forever.
Sure.
You need to have the professional responders come, and our professional responders will come with an automated defibrillator, so they're able to apply that, and then they can actually transport the person to a hospital using an ambulance.
So when did this begin, and since that time, how many people have you been able to respond to? I'm going to use that
that's
term.
That's a good question. Yeah, that's a really good question.
I'm not going to say how many did you save.
I mean, that's a good question. So we started about 3 years ago. In that time, we've done about 5,400 incidents. I mentioned also that we work with both the private sector and the public sector. So that covers anything from somebody in their house, a pregnant woman who has gone to a primary health care center and is having, labor complications and needs to be taken to a hospital for intervention. It covers, like I said, the public sector work that we do, where even a person that's maybe on the road that's destitute, all of those people are encompassed in that number. And so we've really been able to see some tangible impact.
It's actually very impressive. You mentioned earlier that you've gotten involved or started partnerships with certain governments. Which ones have been the most responsive so far?
Ooh, that's a good question. We've had many conversations. But maybe the one that I'll spotlight is Edo State government. So last year, we kicked off a partnership with the Ministry of Health. And in that partnership, which is partly funded by the government itself, partly funded by a development partner, we've trained 200 community-based first responders. So these are people that are already out and about in the community. We can use technology to activate them at a moment's notice, and they get to the scene in about 5 minutes, and they can start that first aid, that CPR, whatever is needed. And then
Yeah.
we can now connect the
Okay.
ambulance services, which we help the government to manage,
Okay.
so that the ambulance can come and pick up the patient and take them to the hospital. So we've really worked very closely with them, and they've been very, very responsive. There are a couple of other states we're kicking off work with now, Ogun State, Rivers State.
Okay.
So we're very excited
Okay.
that there's a response.
So there was a term you used, and I'm going to come back to that now, tech. How is tech involved? How have you infused tech in this entire service
Yep.
at the Emergency Response Africa, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So tech plays a central role. If you think about an emergency response, what it takes to go from a patient
Yeah.
on the road
Yeah.
all the way through to the hospital, there's a lot of communication that needs to happen.
Yeah.
There's a lot of data exchange that needs to happen. How do you know anything about this person? What is the right treatment? What if they have a pre-existing condition? Those are all things that we don't necessarily know and we don't necessarily communicate. So what tech helps us to do is identify the closest available response team that can come to that person's aid, but also then communicate information about the patient all the way through to the hospital level.
Okay, so now I have to wrap it up now, I'm afraid, but I have to say thank you so much for what you're doing, and good luck with the next stages, next steps. Emergency Response Africa. I'm definitely going to be looking out for what you guys
Please
are
come
up to.
get trained. We want to train you guys.
Okay, so I actually would like to, you know what, why not come do a training here
That
on
would
the
be
show?
fantastic, yeah.
And we can show everyone exactly what
Absolutely,
you mean.
absolutely.
All right.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Folake. At this point, we're going to wrap it up on this conversation, but we know the conversation continues right there online. Use our hashtag #WakeUpNigeria on TVC and tag us Wake Up Nigeria TVCE with your questions, comments, and contributions. We can't wait to see them. Speaking of things we can't wait to see, what is Chef Ari and What are they up to?
You know, one interesting question I'd like to ask Folake is food, one of the, responses to this situation? Because I would
Only
like
if
to
you're
think,
choking.
I like to
She
think
said
water
only if
is.
you're choking.
So there's some people that, could be very hungry and they could, spaz out from it. But hey, it's just a
Maybe some glucose.
Yeah, absolutely. Low
Glucose.
blood sugar is a thing. Yes, yes.
Well done. Thank you so much for such an insightful conversation, Folake. And welcome to the kitchen, guys. Chef Arinola is here, as always. And we're making spaghetti avalanche. Well, no, avalanche, actually.
Still trying to
I wanted to add cheese
Exactly.
to the, to the recipe. But hey, talk to us. What's happening?
All right, so pasta is boiling nicely.
Okay.
So started with the sauce. So the sauce is just simple, straightforward.
You know, that's a different kind of tomato paste.
All right, yeah. So,
Talk to us about it.
okay, so it's just use the word not Nigerian. It's foreign.
okay, yeah.
So it's a canned,
It's sort of lumped.
yeah, lump canned cherry tomatoes, Italian.
Yeah, but you can
made,
use
So
any
you can use
tomato
any
paste at
tomatoes,
all.
but
All right.
I sort of prefer because this one gives you that Italian feel
Okay.
because of the nature of the type of tomato that is used.
Got it.
And it already comes, so if you could it comes flavored, it's been pre-prepared,
okay.
sauced and all that.
I'd
So
like
you don't
to
really need
taste
to
that
do
because I don't think I've
so
ever had
much, yeah.
I've ever used Italian
So-
tomato paste,
and
like canned ones.
It's different from the type that we use here.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of difference.
Ah,
so
got it.
So like I said earlier, if I'm going to have spaghetti, I mean, I just like to go all out, make something that is not usual that we have around. Yeah.
Ah.
So
Okay, so now that that's cooking,
so
what's next?
I'm going to allow this cook for like low heat.
Okay.
Low heat for like about 5 minutes. Then I'm going to season. So I'm using seasoning cubes. And then, so what I have in this mix here, so I've got thyme, I've got turmeric, I've got cumin, I've got coriander, I've got, what's it called? Cameroon pepper, just a little bit.
Okay.
And I've got, I can't remember the last, well, probably when I remember,
Avalanche, guys.
when I remember the last thing. So it's a seed. I blended that and
Yeah.
added it to it. I can't
Okay.
remember the name for
Okay.
now,
Okay.
when I
But
do-
I mean, you can tell that this recipe is going to be that kick that we need, to wake us up and get us moving this, this beautiful Wednesday morning. It's the middle of the week. And I know that We're just getting started for some of us, right? Right.
Just getting started.
Okay. So our tomato paste is coming together really nicely. I like those lumps in there.
So we just want it to get just to be a little bit soft so that
Okay.
it doesn't feel so you can easily chew. So it's not
okay.
chewing in your mouth. Yeah.
And they're not tangy
Not
as
tangy.
well.
So we just need to eliminate that.
Okay.
So once that cooks down,
We'll add the spices and then
bread.
the sausages, right?
No. So the sausages and the eggs, we will be going with the pasta. So this is just on
Oh,
its
this is
own.
served
So this
separately,
just served.
and then the eggs and the sausages go into the pasta.
Go into the
I would like to see that. I would like to see that. Are we boiling the eggs or scrambled?
scramble.
Scrambled. Nice. Don't you think so? I think so. And I know that you're at home as well. Things the same thing. If you're just watching, this is Chef Ariola, and we are making spaghetti avalanche. The show continues shortly, guys. I want you to stay with us. We'll be right back.
Yeah, for once we decided to align with the color of our logo this morning. Ooh, yeah, welcome back. It's Wake Up Nigeria. What? This orange, I love the color, and we just happen to wear it at the same time.
Okay.
And then, of course, looking all bright and beautiful, we have MM in the kitchen. Woo! How far?
Good. Chef Ariola is hard at work, and making sure that the spaghetti avalanche comes together really nicely. And yeah, so pretty excited. Fingers crossed.
Did I hear the word right? Avalanche.
Oh, yes.
The other day was Arabiata. Okay, let's move on.
And
So wait, guys. The trick of it is we actually came up with this recipe right here. So hi. I mean, we can't wait, but it's gonna be.
avalanche, abalaya, abacha, all of them we will eat today.
Listen, just get ready for another 45 minutes of non-stop fun, inspiration, and yeah, everything you need to keep that midweek vibe going.
Yeah.
Today is all about staying mindful and, most importantly, enjoying the moment.
Yes, indeed. We've got the right mix of entertainment, information, everything you need to stay focused and feeling good when it comes to nutrition and relationships, everything in between. So let's keep that energy flowing, yeah?
All right, you know they say being demure, it's coming again.
Yeah, demure.
It's the new bold. So let's take this day on with grace, style, and a whole lot of confidence. My name is Mary Bashra Alimi.
And I'm Titilayo Oyinson. Thanks so much for joining us. You can tune in live on YouTube. Just search for us. That's TVC Entertainment on YouTube. We're live there right now. We're also live on UHF Channel 49, GoTV Channel 16, and of course, we are on StarTimes 121.
Yeah, so many platforms really.
Yeah.
And you can follow us across all social media platforms at TVC Entertainment _ using the hashtag WakeUpNigeria on TVC.
Yeah.
All right, let's tell you what we have in store for you this hour. All right? All right? Okay.
A life coach and spiritual shepherd. He has worked with various individuals, families, and organizations as a family life therapist. For a decade now as a conference speaker, and for 13 years, and a clinical psychologist for 5 years, and a prolific writer for 14 years. Anyways, on the show today, we will be discussing exploring intergenerational relationships. Are you into older partners? Well, this conversation is for you. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing today?
Blessed. How about you?
I'm great. First off, let's establish what an intergenerational relationship is.
Yes. So basically, an intergenerational relationship is a relationship between two generations, right? Usually, the cap is 10 years, a 10-year difference between two partners, right? So where one person is at least 10 years older than the other person, they are said to be in two generations. So that's what intergenerational relationship is.
This is somewhat controversial, which also depends on the angle or, the way the perspective which you choose to see it. So first off, it is said, or there's a belief, or there's a certain narrative that ladies who are into older men have daddy issues. Is that true?
Well, that would be too generalistic or generic because it might not exactly be true for everybody. While it might be true for some people, it might not be true for everybody.
Everyone, okay.
There might be other reasons why certain people are into much more older men. Because when you say older men, you know, most ladies would want a man who is older than them, even if it's just 1 or 2, 3, 4 years. But I want to believe what you're talking about is maybe guys who are way, way older.
So now, how old is too old? I think we also need to have that conversation. I'm going to come to the flip side of it.
Yeah.
But let's focus on the women for a minute. How old is too old for you to, you know, be into a partner, you know, who's way older than you? How old can be too old?
Well, that's also subjective, because what I would say about that is you have to consider all the angles before you decide to be with somebody. Because you have to, if for instance you want to get married to somebody, or you're with somebody who is, say, 20 years older than you, you want to look at all the angles, like I said. So for instance, it means that if, for instance, you are 30 right now, the person would be 70 in the next 20 years when you are 50, right? The person would be, when you become 40, the person will be 60. So if you look at all the things surrounding that, the health complications, the issues with even sexuality and things like that, compatibility and all of, and you are okay with it, right? Why not? But my issue is, have you considered all of the options? Have you considered all of the advantages and maybe disadvantages of going into such relationship before you go into it?
Let's touch on some of those advantages and disadvantages, because I know that mode of communication would be a problem, especially can be a problem.
Yeah.
I'll use my experience as an example, right? My partner is quite a number of years older than I am. And for a couple of years, communication was a problem, because I am in a generation where submissiveness is not, it's not a key factor for us, right? Because, I mean, we're in a partnership, so we need to speak to each other like equals. So it got to a time in our marriage where I had to realize that, well, he's going to play different roles, and I have to find a way to, you know, align with that or relate with that. Let's talk about communication, because it can be a problem somewhat. How do we bridge that gap in communicating with a partner who's so, you know, who's many years older than you?
Yes. So that's why understanding is very important. So when you're getting married to somebody, you need to know what generation they belong to. For instance, there are typically about, say, 5 generations. So there is the baby boomers, the Generation X, the millennials, and then there is Gen Z, and now we have Generation Alpha, right? And of course, basically, when we talk about these different generations, it's actually when people are born, a particular time frame when people are born. But then you realize that in those time frames, there are things that affect, you know, the birth of such people. So for instance, anybody born in this generation is born into technology, right? Is born into social media. That affects behavior, right? People have said that once a child gets born now, before the eyes used to be closed, now it's no longer closed, it's now open, right? It gives an example. It gives you an example of how things are right now, or different from how they used to be. So that changes the dynamic. So you're talking about something like submission, things like respect.
Exactly.
Now, it has a new definition now in this time and age. Before now, it was when an older person is talking to you, you can't talk back, you keep quiet. But because of social media, people have found expression through social media.
Yeah.
So now they don't see keeping quiet as a sign of respect. Yeah. So if, for instance, your partner is a Generation Y, for instance, or a millennial, and is getting married to a Gen Z or Generation Alpha, who is after Gen Z, and then he's talking to the person and maybe expects that the person would wait for him to finish before talking, and then she talks back at him, that can, disrespectful. But when they understand that, okay, this is a different generation, and they might not respond like I used to respond or how we were raised, then it would bring about more understanding in that relationship. So I think that understanding, you know, the different generations helps people to communicate better, cut them some slack, and then look for middle grounds where, okay, this is really what I want, this is what I think about this, and then, you know, incorporate what the other person thinks, and then you can find a middle ground.
Now let's talk about men who are into older women, because that also exists, and that is where the controversy usually, you know, stems. That's where we find more, controversies, basically, because, there's that family renegers on it that, no, you can't marry this woman,
Yeah.
And then there's also the flip side where he's being called or being considered or being looked at as a boy toy or a gold digger. There's so many names attributed to that, dynamics in a relationship. So how would you suggest or how would you advise that they handle those sort of, external pressures, also from extended family members?
Yes. So these are part of the things you have to also consider when going into such relationship, right? Okay, how are you going to deal with the culture in which you are living in, right? Especially if you're an African or you live in Africa, it's a bit
it's not fully
unusual,
accepted, yeah.
yes, for a guy to be marrying a lady who is older than him. So you have to look for ways to manage it, right? And you have to also consider it and say, even for guys who are getting married to older women, for instance, you have to also talk about the issue of respect. So how would that play out in your relationship?
An African
right?
man respecting a woman in a marriage
Exactly.
setting?
Yeah. So for an African man, he expects the woman to be submissive, right, in some sort of way. And if you're getting married to an older woman, will she be as submissive as you want her to be?
Exactly.
So those are conversations you need to have, right, with her. And of course, you as the man, you need to also shield her from the community. And of course, it's your decision. So one way or the other, you have to live up to it. You have to own up to your decision.
All right.
And then, stand by it, whatever consequences come.
What I'm hearing from all of this is communication.
Yeah.
Find a way to communicate, approach a conversation in a very, very, very delicate manner. Thank you so much for this
Thank you.
conversation, Miracle. I'm sure 1 or 2 people watching have learned so much from this topic on exploring intergenerational relationship. We'll continue again next week, right?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Welcome back. Yeah, so I know that myself and Mary look like fruits today. That's one of the healthier options for you. We're talking nutrition at this point, if you didn't know where I was going with that. Nneka Ogbae is back. And she has been an advocate for child nutrition for quite a while now. The visionary founder of Mash Baby Food, a 100% natural baby food company dedicated to crafting wholesome complementary meals for infants and toddlers. Today on Nutrition, we're going to discuss budget-friendly foods that are both nutritious and filling for young kids. Now, anything budget-friendly, I want to hear about it. First of all, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure.
All right, Nneka Ogbae, Mash Baby Food has given us that insight. On your page, you put loads of different recipes up there. But when you add budget-friendly to the conversation, it goes in another direction.
Yes.
You have a newborn, or let's say an infant or toddler, and you don't really know where to start. Maybe you've just come off breastfeeding, and you're thinking, what is the best direction to go? Because babies are picky, So what's the advice you give mothers as soon as you start this conversation?
Awesome. And I laugh because budget-friendly and food in Nigeria right now, that's an oxymoron. I don't know that really exists, but to the best of our ability, we try to offer affordable options, right?
Okay.
So for a new parent who's just weaning their child off breast milk, it's important to focus on staples in whatever environment that you find yourself. So for us in Nigeria, that would be your typical, your rice, your plantains, your sweet potatoes, things that you use regularly at home, things that are locally grown and can be locally sourced, because when you're importing, that comes with its own fair share of expenses as well. So locally available things. Also, you want to focus on things that are in season, because they are cheaper as well. So that really helps the parents to be able to incorporate real foods into their child's diet in an affordable way.
Okay, so most families have rice on their shopping list already. A lot of families, probably not most anymore, have plantain on their shopping list. What else do I add to my shopping list that can be incorporated to babies' meals?
Okay, so fantastic question, because for many parents, whether it's an infant or a toddler, you're looking to focus on the nutrients that you're offering them because they're still developing at this stage in their life. So one thing I always say, the first thing I would always say is to expand the foods in each food group. So for example, if you're focusing on proteins, I had a mom say to me that, you know, my toddler only likes turkey. Right? And so she doesn't eat any other kind of meats. Well, but now turkey is over 7,000 naira a kilo.
Yeah.
So you're not going to reduce the amount of protein you're giving your child. You can expand the proteins that you offer. So think about other alternatives like fish. You can find way more affordable options when you're shopping with fish, even eggs. Yes, some people will say, okay, a crate of egg is 5,000 naira, but you can get 30 servings from that. You cannot get 30 servings of turkey from 1 kilo, right? So
definitely not.
they're just expanding the options of foods in each food group will help you.
Okay, so we've touched on proteins now. Egg is an alternative to, let's say, chicken and turkey, right? And then are there any alternatives? Like we hear that beans is both protein and carbohydrates now. Is that a better option for infants?
Yes, so that's a fantastic option as well because in times like this when we're very price sensitive, right? You need to get more bang for your buck. So beans have a fair amount of carbohydrates and proteins. So you can offer that to your child rather than buying your staple carbohydrate, let's say yam or rice, and then looking for a protein to pair that with. You can literally just buy this one thing and offer the two nutrients together. So beans are fantastic. And for families, especially when you're dealing with children, you want to add variety to the meals that you're offering them. And beans is a great option because you can do so many things with it. Akara, moi moi, ewa going. My kids actually love to make an akara pizza where the akara is the base of the pizza. So there are many things you can do with that.
Okay, let's talk age groups now. Because once you start talking akara, you're talking fried foods, and you're talking maybe infants that have a certain amount of teeth. What about the ones that are a lot younger, maybe from 6, 7 months old? Let's start, talking about that menu. A 6, 7 month old just weaned off breast milk at 6 months. What are the options?
So in that age group, you probably want to start with it just being boiled and mashed, right? That's the simplest form that you can start.
So moi moi mashed or boiled is okay at 7 months?
Yes. So you can build on that as your child gets older, but that's where you would want to begin. And not just for beans, any of the other foods that you choose to offer. You want to start in the simplest form and then vary the style as they get older.
Okay. So I remember my mom, showing us how to give ground rice to my kids. There's also semolina and the like. But a lot of, let's say, baby food companies push the milk narrative for a lot longer, and it does put a lot of, disruption in the parents' mind when they're like, okay, no more milk. So is milk still a staple?
Very good, because milk should actually be part of your child's diet till age 2. Actually.
All right.
Minimum age 1, but if you can do it up to age 2, then fantastic. So when we're introducing foods at the age of 6 months, they're only complementary at this stage. So meaning that the milk stays and then the food complements that milk. So the more food you bring in, the less milk you offer. So you don't just stop at 6 months with the milk. It's a gradual process.
Yeah. So at this point, I know we can mix baby milk or baby formula milk or breast milk with a lot of different foods. What are the best mixes you've found?
Oh, one that kids always love, especially when they're much younger, is plantains because it's sweet. You can throw in some chicken and carrots in there. So plantains, chicken, carrots, blend that up with breast milk. Fantastic. 9 times out of 10, they absolutely love it.
I wouldn't have thought chicken, carrots, plantain, and milk. And they like it?
They love it.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I know that you've heard wow quite a few times at your combinations. Give us another wow combination right now.
So one that parents really get surprised about is also we do beans with plantains. So the idea there is that a lot of children tend to love plantains because of that sweet flavor and also the smooth, silky flavor when you blend it. So putting anything with plantains usually just gets the kids excited. So beans and plantains is also a staple Nigerian family meal. but we make it for the children so that by the time they get older, it's not foreign to them, it's not new to them on the dining table.
So it's blended down. Obviously,
Yes.
you have a dedicated blender for this.
Of course.
It's not the blender you use for your pepper.
No.
And with all the big mix blenders that are available right now, I don't want to mention that brand, but you know, I'm just so enthusiastic about finding different options right now, and I know that people are at home as well. Thank you so much for sharing those recipes with us and that advice. Of course, we would love to hear your thoughts on that as well. But at this point, we're going to head over to the kitchen. Will you join us?
Sure.
All
I'd
right.
love to.
Fantastic.
Welcome, Chef Ariola. Well done.
Thank you.
Welcome to the kitchen, Nneka.
Thank
and
you.
this is avalanche spaghetti made by Chef Ariola. So please, kindly have a taste.
It looks amazing.
Yes.
And honestly, I didn't know I was going to get food here today. You know, in Nigeria, when you get free food now, it's a huge deal. So thank you. Thank
Yes,
you.
I like appreciative people.
It's a big deal. Oh.
Yeah, dig in.
All right.
The tomato paste looks good. It's glistening.
Sauce, right?
Yes.
So what's the feedback?
Fantastic. I really love the tomato sauce. It's very nice and fresh. I love that.
All right.
Right.
Okay, and
Well
we love
done.
knowing you watch us every day on TVCE.
Yeah.